So we are connected now, I think.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for attending this info session, Q&A session. Thank you for the questions you have sent us. We have collected a few of those which we judge to be interesting for a wider audience base, and we are going to answer some of those questions. So like the last time, let me introduce you Anna, who is going to take care of the questions at the second half of the presentation, and Antonio and myself, we are going to answer the questions in the first half. Should you have any questions while we are talking, just put it into the questions panel, please. If we have time at the end of the presentation, we are going to answer them. So we are trying to close this call 11 the latest. So I'm going to start with some questions. So Antonio, if you would step the slides.
This is not, sorry, this is not the Q&A. I think now we have the first question.
So before we head into the questions themselves, some explanation. I know we told you this during the info session early September, but probably it's worth again discussing why open innovation is important and what are the benefits for the participants and to the EIT digital ecosystem, and what are the benefits of being in the EIT digital ecosystem. Please step one. Okay, so Open Innovation Factory is really a program, not surprisingly, promoting European open innovation. Open innovation is a concept when various players of the ecosystem are innovating together. So startups are not, working in a void. They are not working in their cellar, and then once they just head to the light and pray for success. But from day zero, they are forging alliances, consortiums, partnerships with other players of the same ecosystem, and they are trying to innovate together. So, for example, let me give you a sample that a startup from Spain has a nice idea, and they are looking for some research partners. So they are partnering with a research institute or a university from Berlin, and they are finding a first customer who is willing to do a pilot with this new technology in Italy. And the three of them are forming a mini consortium, and they are applying for our program. And we, as EIT Digital, an institute which is partially funded by the EU, we are supporting these kind of open innovation activities all across the EU and Europe with financial support, with mentoring, with coaching, and with a bunch of other things like connecting you to venture funds, corporate venture partners, or angel networks throughout Europe. So this program is about boosting a startup. So that means that if you have an idea now and would like to participate in the Open Innovation Factory, that's probably going to okay for you next year or by the next batch when you are past the idea phase and you have a prototype which just needs some chiseling and, like I said, a few partners to take it to the market. So you can request up to 400k euros of financial support, and you are going to offer, or you are going to have to offer actually, equity, which should be more than 2% and less than 15%. Please don't kill your own cap table. And in return, you are going to participate in this 6 months long program. To validate your efforts, we would require a 10k revenue to be secured within the time frame of the program. So that's the validation, meaning that your service or product has a real solution problem fit. Please advance to the next slide. Thank you. So what are the benefits? Like I said, of course, besides money, which I understand is a huge benefit, and that's a very important part of the deal, but it's not all. So EIT Digital is the gateway to European digital innovation, and it's not just a catchphrase. You know, so if you start innovating and if you are approaching a client, and according to our experiences, if you have, you know, the EU and the EIT Digital logo on your deck, that might open a few doors. Plus, EIT Digital is not the only EIT KIC, Knowledge and Innovation Center, within the umbrella of EIT. We can connect you to other programs, from EIT Health to EIT Creative, from EIT Raw Materials to EIT Food. Check out the other KICs. We are regularly applying to EU calls with the startups in our portfolio. We are doing a bunch of these calls right now because most of these calls are requiring, similarly to our open innovation concept, several parties to work together. Since you are going to be in our equity portfolio, our ecosystem is instantly opened up to you. So we have a bunch of corporates you can use as customers, EIT Digital partners. We have about 1,000 investors, VCs, angel networks, CVCs, with whom we are communicating regularly. So I'm just doing a few fundraising support rounds myself for Innovation Factory graduates as we speak. We can connect you to service providers, and we have a vast alumni of about 3,000 master school students who partook in our entrepreneurship course. We can provide you access to those talents should you need an extra pair of hands, like a CTO or a co-founder. We would give you visibility. So we have a Spotlight Series event, for example, which is a social media campaign every now and then. When we are showcasing our startups, just check out, for example, the LinkedIn page of EIT Digital. You will see what I'm talking about. We have a bunch of events we are attending. Just, for example, Web Summit in a bit, where a bunch of our startups is coming with us. We are going to showcase them and introduce them to investors, or the Summit of the European Business Angels Network, where about 20 of our startups have applied to pitch. So fingers crossed, hopefully a lot of them will get the chance to show themselves to high net worth individuals there. We have an exclusive training called Speedmaster, which also you can check out on our website. Speedmaster will be free for the Open Innovation Factory participants, so 1 seat. And moreover, it's going to be mandatory to attend that course, but it's a pretty cool training. So I would by all means attend to that. And we're going to provide mentoring and coaching to you in the form of one of the EIT Digital guys who is more familiar with your particular vertical is going to help and hold your hand. And should you have any exact critical challenge that you face, like, I don't know, I'm facing an HR challenge, I'm facing a sales challenge, I'm facing a technical or marketing challenge, we are going to find that specific mentor for you from whom you can ask a question and work together for a few weeks. So that's like the general concept and the general benefits of EIT Digital and Open Innovation Factory. And with that, I'm giving this over to Antonio, who's going to answer a few questions now.
Anthony?
You're on mute, or we can't hear you.
Yes, okay, no. I was maybe asking Anna to explain the next three slides.
Sure, Antonio. So the next question is if startups funded in 2018 are eligible to apply. Any company who is not the startup to be boosted can be registered anytime. However, the startup which provide the equity needs to be registered on January 1st of 2019 or later, this year, last year, but not before 2019. With regard to if this open to tech under construction? The answer is yes, because construction industry can be part of digital industry in production and logistics, or digital cities when it's related to urban design or urban mobility, or digital finance in financing. It depends on the strategic area in which this project fits. Can we see the next slide? Do you want to add something on that?
No, maybe I can put some examples that can be applied to that. That is, we have had activities in the part of the digital management of robotics to build construction parts in the part of digital involved in digital industry. One example in digital cities can be some simulation tools for let's say for the new development of the cities, that we have had activities in that area too. Or in digital finance, we have had activities regarding the strategic evolution of portfolio of real estate for some companies, and if they some intelligent models or using artificial intelligence to evaluate if they need to rebuild, they need to improve their properties, or they need to sell and to buy another one. So this kind of depending on the case about the construction industry, there are several. We have had several examples in the previous programs. But our recommendation is that depending on the specific case, you can check with more details.
So the next question is, what will be the key criteria goal you are trying to reach with this goal that you rarely see being met by applicants? Actually, in general, the applicants comply with the mandatory eligibility conditions that you can see in this table. This table is in the call documents in the cutoff to a specific one, more in particular. And the eligibility conditions are very simple. They must be registered in an eligibility country. The proposal should request a maximum of 400,000 EIT digital funding. The activity partners' own contribution must be at least of 50% of the activity budget. The venture to be boosted should not be a subsidiary of another company or controlled by another company. Besides, the venture to be boosted has a right ownership of the substantial majority of the product's IP. And the equity proposed must be between 2 and 15% equity. In this regard, in the call is further described, and the ideal equity proposed is between 5 and 50%. But once the startup and the proposal complies with the eligibility conditions, the best quality goals is that the activities align with the strategic areas and the product is based on deep tech, and the initial stage of the market are very close to the product. The team shows some experience and expertise, and the startup is supported by investor, has letter of intent, etc. That will be the key to achieve the selection here.
Mm-hmm.
Another question is about the matchmaking tool. The matchmaking tool is something that we came up during this call, during this cutoff, to allow different partners to find their consortia. So for example, if you are a startup and you offer a specific solution, you maybe require some resources that you could got from academia or a corporate For example, an infrastructure supplier. Imagine you are a software development you are producing software and you for IoT, and you will require some sensors that a corporate is deployed already. So you could form this partnership, and if you don't have this, you can use this form that you can find in the QR there, and we will help you to find an appropriate partner for you, because as we said before, it's important that they are from different countries in Europe and so on. So this is something that we can help you out. So the matchmaking is based on two main points. First, the resources. So for example, user, service provider, solution provider, technology provider, and also the deep tech alignment. And this is related with our digital tech, digital cities, digital well-being, digital finance, and digital industry, that are the pillars in which these proposals are based on.
Okay, and then you have a QR there to go directly to the matchmaking tool.
Yes.
So this one is the one that is for me. That is, we have had some question regarding how much additional effort to the regular project that you are doing the program will require. We have two different steps. One is the proposal preparation. In the proposal system, the submission system, actually what you have to do is you have to enter and to fill in it's relatively simple form comparing with some other programs where you have to provide a lot of additional documentation. Here, the main or the key item is not to add a lot of documentation, a lot of effort, but to be able to summarize your value that you are providing in this proposal, and to do it in a very simple way, because so in general all the form is with text fields, and then you need to be very let's say smart to summarize what you want to describe, and to that will be evaluated by the external evaluators. So it's not the amount of work, it's more to be very precise and very able to summarize what your proposal is about. Then, if you are selected, the activity execution is not a heavy program in terms of our requirements. In general, you will run the project quite autonomously without our deep intervention. You will work with other partners. That is something that you have to organize internally, because as Anna mentioned before, or Dennis, that you have to apply in consortium with other partners, so you need to coordinate internally, but it's something that you will do without our involvement. And the part that we will be involved with you is, in general, we will have a follow-up meeting every month that is 45 minutes, half an hour, 1 hour, to check how the project is advancing, and to detect any kind of issue that you could have, and then we have to solve. Then in the month, at the end of the month third, you need to provide a report of the advance to date. That is a simple form where you describe what you have done in these initial 3 months, nothing very heavy. And finally, at the end of the activity, you will need to provide the deliverables. Deliverables in general in the proposal, they are about 6 to 8 documents, but in general they are not. We are not requiring that they are tons of paper, or a lot of information that is only to be evaluated by the size of the deliverable. We expect a concrete and clear deliverables showing what you have achieved in the activity. The main ones are one is the activity management, where you describe how you have managed the activity. Normally, this is a document that is less than 10 pages explaining the meeting that you had in the partners, the control point that you have had in the activities, nothing very complex. Then the two main documents are the technical description of your MVP or your product or your solution, and the go-to-market and the business part. As I explained, we don't expect that you provide 100 pages in each of them. It's something that you have to be clear and to provide information that can be understood by an external expert that can be not in your same vertical, and can be an expert in innovation, in investment, but you need to be, let's say, a bit not too technical in the document. Normally, those documents are, I would say, about 20 pages, or between 15 and 30 pages, and this is something that you have to provide at the end. In addition to that, you need to provide also a deliverable that is a video with 1.5 minutes, more or less, about your activity. The important point there is to coordinate with us, to be very strict regarding the formatting, because at the end we need to provide this package of deliverables to an external party, and then it's very important to be strictly aligned with the format requirement, but it's not heavy work in that terms. In general, you don't need to provide a lot of documentary evidence, only for the one that Denis mentioned at the beginning, that is the commercial traction evidence of at least one invoice or several invoices reaching 10Ks. And this is the only external document that you have to include in the system. And finally, regarding the cost reporting, you need to describe in the cost reporting all the costs that you have had, but not with a lot of the detail. You need to describe for each person that has participated their involvement or their workload. For each cost that you declare, you need to describe the invoice, but you don't need to provide the actual invoices or copy of all the cost or the payroll of all the employees. You need to file them in the case that later you are involved in an audit. So my summary is that the proposal preparation is not a heavy work. So if you think the program is interesting, I encourage you to apply. And the activity itself, it does not require a lot of effort comparing with the advantages that the activity is providing. So the balance between work devoted to the EITD, that extra work, and the benefits of the grant and others, I think is really, they are really positive for this program. Okay, another question that we have had is about the success rate of application. That is something, I suppose, that is related with the previous one, about how much effort regarding the probabilities to be successful. There is not a standard rate for that. What we can describe is the latest cutoff that we had. That in the latest one we had 47 proposals, and then we selected 8. And in the previous one, from 40 proposals, we selected 9. And so I would say that the rate is about 20%. That is, it's not bad. It's quite good for this kind of European project applications. Then we have a question regarding the UK. Probably you know that the UK has finally signed the accession to the Horizon Europe, or is signing now the accession to the Horizon Europe. So UK will be an eligible partner, an eligible country from 2024. You know that this program, the call is 2023, but it will be executed in 2024. We are not 100% sure how this applies, if the program, if the date is for the execution of the program or for the call. But in any case, we now have a model that is partially supported by the UKRI, and we have an agreement with them. So the direct answer about if one UK company can participate without creating an EU company, the short answer is yes. The participation is the same as any other partner. Maybe later the execution can be slightly different, but not in the part that is impacting the company. It depends on, at the end, what is the source of the funds for the grant. But any UK company can apply as the same as the other associated countries. Then we have had some questions about what are when we talk about that the system is funding half of the eligible costs that are in the activity time frame. We have had some question about what are those eligible costs and what aren't. In general, this table describes, and they are very well described in the call document. There is a link to the annotated grant agreement that is a detailed document by the EU explaining what costs are eligible. In general, or let's say the most direct cost is personal, and in personal we are including employees, we are including contractors. So if your company has some contractor, this is not like a service, this is a person, and the contractor in that case is personal. Second, this is a bit strange, but it can happen that a company gives another partner an employee to work in the activity, and then this also valid as a cost. And finally, I will explain later the SME owners. That is a special cost considered for the owners of the startups, in general SMEs, not only startups, that are working there without being employees. Some of the costs have included 25% of indirect cost. That means that if you have, for example, 100,000 cost in personal, in employees, then the system will add automatically 25% more, and the reported cost and the figure that will be used to calculate half of this cost is 100,000 plus 25%, so 25 additional thousand. So in this case, the half of the cost will be 62.5 K. So this indirect cost is especially interesting for a startup that they don't have 25% of overhead, and then it gives some additional margin to support the activity. In the case of subcontracting is when you go to a company, not a contractor, not a person, you go to a company to request some services in the activity. And in that case, because you are considering there not only the cost, like in the previous case, you are considering the cost and the commercial margin of the company. In this case, the subcontracting ledger has not added this 25% of the cost. The subcontracting is not the preferred way by the EU, but is acceptable. The important point is that any subcontracting in the activity has to follow two different criteria. One is transparency, in the sense to get the best value for money. So you need to check the market, and to be able, if there is an audit later, to be able to justify that you have selected the best value for your money, the cheapest one in some case, or the most efficient in other cases. It doesn't mean that you need to generate a kind of formal bid for the services, but at least you need to check offers to keep track of these offers, to to follow this transparency subcontracting companies. And the second one is avoiding conflict of interest. So you cannot subcontract a company in your group. You cannot subcontract a company where the founders of the startup are also part of the other company. So this kind of subcontracting requires some transparency. Then in the direct cost of purchasing the things, you can enter all the travel in the activity, including accommodation, flights, etc. Then the part of the equipment is a bit more specific, because when the equipment is used only for the activity time frame, you can declare that the activity time frame and activity objective, you can declare that as a cost. But if, for example, you are buying some asset that will be used in the future by the company, and you book in your accounting as a fixed asset, you only can declare the depreciation in the activity time frame. Now it's very common that using cloud infrastructure, etc. This is because this is OPEX, this is operational expenses, and not fixed asset. They can be declared as part of the equipment if they are focused in the activity objective. And finally, there are other costs that are different costs. For example, marketing agencies, legal cost of IP protection, and some other things that you have to buy, and then they are included in this part of other cost works and services. I would say that some general costs are not supported under these ledgers, like, for example, office space, or maybe even the general use computers. This is considered that is covered by the 25% of indirect cost that is included also on this purchase cost. For all those costs, you need to declare the invoices. You need to be sure that the invoice is addressed to the right time frame of the activity. But you don't need to provide all the copies of the invoices or all the copies of the documents. It's only that if you are requested later, you need to be prepared to provide that. And then finally, the last one that is a bit strange, and that is allowed in the Horizon Europe, that if there is a partner that is providing in-kind contribution for free, this can be, under some assumptions, can be also considered by a cost of the startup. For example, let's see that one third party is providing free infrastructure. We can analyze if that is eligible, because they have some specific requirement. You can read that in the annotated grant agreement. But this is in some cases it can be considered, and this can be valid. I have a specific explanation about how does the owner-funder cost work, because this is something that is asked. Many of you have asked about that, because in our program is focused on startup boosting. So it's very common that the founders of those startups are not employees of the startup yet, and they are only rewarded by the ownership of the company that is there. In that case, in general, the Horizon Europe model allows the cost type SME owners, that is called in some cases sweat equity, because at the end they are working for the equity and not for the payroll. And this specific cost applies to owners of the startups. Owners of the startups means that they need to be shareholders during the activity, that are not employees at the same time. In some cases, the owners of the startup are employees, and if they are employees, their cost must be reported under the employee ledger. So it's the payroll, not only the payroll and all the legal costs in your country. For example, if you have social security, pensions that are mandatory. Anything that is mandatory of personal cost can be declared under personal. But if the owners of the company are not employees, they can declare, and they need to be working for they need to be working on the activity. But their interest is the ownership of the startup and not, let's say, a direct income. This is a standard cost that is accepted, but there's not need to pay nothing by the startup. So it's something. This cost is not recorded in the book accounting, but and it's not needed that you pay nothing for that. But for the reporting, is the same as any other personal cost. There's a standard rate that is I think we need to check the new figures for 2024, but we can calculate about the previous one that was 285 euros per day work for the company. But this is adjusted by countries in Europe. There is a table that is in the we can provide this that table that is in the Marie Curie European model. And then it's for countries that have a, let's say, higher average of salaries or personal cost. It's higher. Then in some cases goes even to 320 or 330. And some other countries where the personal costs are smaller, then it's a bit less. That it can be 250. It depends on the country where the startup is located. In that case, because you don't have any accounting record of this payment, because there is not a payment, you need to fill in a document that is a sworn declaration of the person that he's an owner of the company and he has been working that number of days or those. Yes, I think it's the number of days that they have been working for the startup. And over this cost, also 25% of the indirect cost apply to be added. So this is very interesting especially for new startups that they can declare cost, but without having a cash out. And only one note, but this has been always a question, that what happens if we offer some, let's say, employees or some team members not to pay now, but to give them stock options for the future. But stock options are not ownership of the company. So this is only applies for those people that are shareholders in the company. There is not a limit of the ownership. They can be quite a small, 1%, 2%, 3%. But what is important is that those people are working for the value of the company and not for a kind of salary of the direct monetary reward. And with that, I think we have finished the question that we had for this initial Q&A questions. I don't know if we have additional questions here. We don't have we have some.
Yes, we have two.
Two that I am trying to see here, but
Yes, we have a few questions. I answered them on the chat.
That have you answered in the chat? Perfect.
Yes.
So in that case, we don't need to continue. I think with that we finish here this session. Stop sharing.
And this session will be made available to download later as well as a recording on the website. So you can always access it and add the word.
Thank you for all the attendance to the session, and then we can close it. Dennis, can we close? Yes.
Of course. Take care, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.